Third try. Barbara didn't want Carolyn to know she was there, so she was lying low in the lobby, working on a play for a community theater. I went to the bathroom and found Carolyn putting on her makeup. So I introduced myself, and she started talking. She said, "Oh, there's a woman in here before. I think I made her nervous. It's always bad news to find a dyke in the bathroom putting dirt on all over herself." And I thought, I've got to tape this. So we found an outlet and did the interview then and there.
Well, I have kind of a tortured sexuality because I'm an incest survivor. And so, I thought, most of the first 20 years of my life were really hell-bent on being normal and not having the world discover this terrible secret. So, I didn't stop to ask myself my tastes in anything. It was whatever is the most normal-looking thing to be doing, wearing, dating, I did it. And I was quite a performer. I did it very well. And I didn't have my memories. I didn't really understand my own behaviors. And then, like most survivors, whatever it was got you through your 20s starts to kind of break down in your early 30s. And for me, it broke down. And by then I was married. And, I proved to myself I can pull off surviving. And suddenly that wasn't good enough anymore. And, things just started coming to the surface. And the arrangement that I'd worked out, for my life was starting to fall apart. And I began to be aware that I was really done with men and that I was a lesbian. And when I knew that, as I let myself know that, and I left my husband and I came out politically before I ever had a girlfriend. I just began telling people I know I'm lesbian. And as soon as I began to do that, I began to create incredible art. I knew the story I had to tell. And I got my memories. So to me, those three things all are tied together. I couldn't get my memories until I knew I was never going to have another man in my body or my bed again. So knowing I was lesbian freed me up to know what I really thought about men's genitals, men's sexuality, which is that I really hate and fear them. And which is, I would never have gotten that because my performance was so promiscuous and so polished. So that was quite a surprise to the world, what I really felt about men, what I've been masking all this time. And so that's what I got to. So, I came out as a dyke, and that was tied to getting my memories. And then when I got my memories, I knew the story I had to tell, which was the story of a survivor. It was the story of a woman who's been lied to and brainwashed. It's a story of living a life that isn't yours for your entire life. Anyway, so I think that I wonder how many women are suffering terribly because they don't know their artists, and they don't know their artists because they don't know they're lesbians. And I just really could not practice my art until I knew I was a lesbian, because what would I say? And I think deeply I knew I didn't want to work for the enemy. What would be the point in producing heterosexual art? I think on a deep, deep level that would have really violated me. So,
what were the memories?
The memories were my father. It was, child sexual abuse, pretty generic, pretty, This looks like somebody died in this thing. I'm not able to figure this out. And they were, they came pretty quickly. Of course, as soon as that happened, and there was a movement finally, thank God, to support women like me, but a whole lot of things made sense about my behaviors. I was classic post-traumatic kid. I, hitchhiked all over the country, repeatedly put myself at great risk, and lots of behaviors. Wouldn't sleep in the bed with men after I'd had sex with them. Would go sleep on the living room floor. I couldn't tell people why I was doing that. So aside from just getting the memories, suddenly it was like a whole picture, and that made me angry also. Like, why don't we know enough about post-traumatic stress? I see women now acting like me. I know exactly. I know they're trauma survivors. Maybe they don't remember it, but it's just, it's a way of organizing your perceptions. It's a way of responding to stimuli, and making choices that you can't explain, that don't make any sense. So a lot of my art is really focused on telling the story of a survivor and getting us literate about post-traumatic stress disorder, what it looks like, what it sounds like, because I think there's a shitload of walking wounded in this country, and they're kind of feeling low self-esteem because they can't understand their behaviors and they don't know what's going on with them, and that's just tragic. That shouldn't be. So
if we had more depictions of that, they'd go, oh, that's me. You know what? I bet you I'm a trauma survivor too. So I feel passionate about that. The censorship of incest in the media and the depiction of the survivors, huge, just huge. We have all kinds of men acting out, the sort of Marlon Brando bad boy, the glorification of the juvenile delinquent, but the female who's in juvenile detention hall, she doesn't get stories told about her. She is not depicted as heroic or in resistance. She's sort of an ugly girl who isn't acting right. Nobody's interested in her. Nobody cares about her. But as a lesbian, that woman gets all my interest. It's like that girl or that woman, she's the most interesting archetype that we have. And it's interesting, she's missing from the canon, which is good news for me because I get a free rein. I'm in uncharted territory. The kinds of plays I've been written with the women I'm writing about have never been seen on the stage before. Speaking of which, I gotta go get ready to be Joan of Arc, a teenage lesbian survivor Joan of Arc, which the historical record certainly supports.
Is there some happy ending for women? Like marriage, when the whole company comes out on stage and joins hands around the happy couple while they ring down the curtain, and they better ring down the curtain because we all know this is the point when the leading lady retires from the stage. Or is that happy ending for women those scenes where the fatally wounded or terminally ill heroine sings her dying aria in the arms of a broken-hearted lover? I mean, the bad news is she dies, but the good news is he really did love her. Too little, too late. Who's keeping score? Is there some happy ending for women that does not require our entire spiritual annihilation? And what if we just stopped? I mean, whatever we got going, what if we just dropped everything until we could figure out what that happy ending is? And not just figure it out, but see it, feel it, touch it, taste it. Because I am here to tell you that you are going to paint what you are looking at. And if we don't start coming up with something better than these martyred female saints, we're all going to end up at the stake. Let me tell you a secret. They can't threaten you with starvation if you learn not to eat. That's right. And that's what I did. I would eat as little as possible. 1 piece of bread a day. And you know what? It worked. My body stayed the body of a young girl. When I died at 19, I'd still never menstruated. See? I had found a way to avoid puberty. I love the body of a young girl. I love my lean body, somewhere between men and women, somewhere where nobody can catch me. There's a lot of pain in being a freak, but there's a lot of respect. People can't project their fantasies on you. They have to deal with you in your own terms. I was a freak, I still am. And let me tell you something else. There's no such thing as eating disorders in a prison camp. There's only eating strategies. Mine was very successful. I did not fall into the same trap as my mother and my sisters. I did not die by millimeters as if it was my own fault. If I wasn't getting enough of what I needed to live, you know what? I was going to look like it. I was going to make those killers come out and show themselves. And they did. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. My father. My father had this dream about me. I'm sure he had a lot of dreams about me. This is the only one I ever heard about. And in this fantasy, dream as he called it, he saw me leaving town and going off with a group of soldiers. Now in his infinite masculine wisdom and his alcoholic omniscience, he took this to be an omen that I was headed for a life of prostitution. Fascinating interpretation, don't you think, for a man to have about his own daughter? Now, maybe it would have put his mind at ease to know that my military calling was not based on my attraction to men, but my desire to kill them. In any event, this dream had become a real problem for him. In fact, you might even say it had become an obsession. Oh, he tried all the usual standard remedial methods of battering me and calling me a slut. But in spite of his best efforts, I just couldn't seem to keep myself from reminding him of a prostitute. Really? the maiden, wham! And I'm on the floor, and he's kicking me in the stomach and the ribs, so I roll into a ball, and he's kicking my back, and he's kicking my legs. And then he's on the floor over me, and he's pulling up my dress with one hand. Now, if I had been dressed like a man, he would have had to use both hands. He would have had to untie 40 knots and 2 sets of lacings. I would have made him pay for it. You better believe it. With a dress, one hand, one movement. That's what dresses are about, isn't it? Accessibility. I don't see but that's changed much in 500 years. And neither has rape. So I'm lying on the floor, and he's got my dress up. And with one hand, he's smacking my face back and goes, wham, wham, wham. With his other hand, he's taking out his... With his other hand, he's taking out his penis. And here's my body. It's my body. It's me. My precious girl body. My sweet body. It's me. And he's jamming big, ugly thing into my sweet body. He's slamming it into my body. Wham! Wham! I can't focus my eyes, my nose is bleeding, he's talking to me between his teeth in some language I don't understand. And then he stands up. And he's gone.
I want to ask you, and I know that it's verboten to ask a writer this, but does this work reflect your life in some way?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I did it, I actually retired the piece for almost 5 years because it was so close to my life that it was dangerous for me to perform, and I had a breakdown around it. And what it is, it's a play that's about that woman who's in that very dangerous place where she's come to consciousness about patriarchy, but she's not recovered enough to love herself or to form alliances with other women. So here she is cut loose from all the systems of privilege and all the social roles that would protect her, but she hasn't uploaded that new system of solidarity with women yet. So it leaves her nowhere. And I was in that place when I wrote the play and when I first began performing it. And I had to stop performing it, do a lot of recovery, learn to love myself, feed myself, take care of myself, learn to love other women, learn how to do functional, respectful relationships, and then I could go back and tour in the piece again. But when I was in the middle like Joan, it was very unstable to perform it. You know, it was just too painful because it was me, yeah.
Does it sometimes feel precarious now?
No, and I actually am using, as you know, I use a really tan makeup, and that helps me because at the end of the evening I go home and I shower it off, and it's very dark, and I see it run down the drain, and I literally take off Joan's skin.